you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all. Hello, 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 you guys. It's me, Dr. VicTORIEus. Welcome back to another episode of Be Victorious. Now, OMG, you guys, as you know, there are so many wonderful things that are happening in the Be Victorious community. My book is finally here, you guys. It's called Let's Talk About ACEs. Because you know what, you guys? It is time. We've normalized ACEs so much to where we're not having these conversations, and we need to have these conversations, especially with the CDC making updates to adverse childhood experiences since 1998. Yes, you guys, if you go to the CDC, they have updated information in regards to ACEs. Now, our next guest, I will tell you, she is no stranger to ACEs at all. She's very well versed. It's like she's my soul sister, not just an educational consultant, but she is heavy on special education and she helps so many people. Oh, Addy, where are you?
Here I am.
Yay. How are you, Addy?
I'm great, Dr. Torie. Thank you so much for inviting me to be with you today.
This is exciting because I feel like you're my sister. We have commonalities that people need to know about, the way that we
Absolutely.
started, where we're at now, what we're doing. And so I'm excited, honestly, to have you on here because you're not alone. Me meeting you let me know that the journey that I was taking was the right journey. So I applaud you for taking the same.
Well, I think we each have our own soul curriculum.
Yes.
We're here to do the work that we're called to do. And
Yes.
we met through social media, and it was just by chance that I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to pop on this live and see what
Mm-hmm.
she's about.
Mm-hmm.
And just loved what you were talking about ACEs, from my personal experiences. And then also from working with clients now. So I'm a life coach and an educational consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you had to say was like spot on and has already helped me to grow my knowledge and my ability to serve my clients.
Yay!
Yes,
So tell me more. Did you take the ACEs quiz?
I did. I did.
What's your score?
Yeah. My score was an 8.
Okay. How do you feel about that? Did that upset you? Did it was an eye-opening experience? What
I
happened?
I don't think it upset me.
Okay,
I
good.
think I was a little, as I read the questions, I was like, well, it wasn't that bad. Well, it really wasn't physical abuse. Well, he didn't really abuse her, but there was that time that he kicked her out of the moving car.
Yeah,
So it took me back.
good.
It's kind of it was a little bit difficult initially. I wasn't, wasn't angry. I wasn't resentful. I just really looked at it as an opportunity to continue healing.
And that is the point. Thank you. It is hard for people to go back to really reflect on those questions.
Mhm.
So you have a lot of people that don't want to, but I'm glad that you were honest to say, well, I kind of covered a little bit because
Yes,
I think that's the reason why I'm pushing this book. We have to have these conversations because we're normalizing the things that really aren't okay.
absolutely. Yeah, it required me to be vulnerable at a level that I ask my clients to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just had to go there.
I'm glad you did because now I feel like people are defining themselves by the score. And it's like, you don't have to really do that. It's an awareness tool. It isn't
Absolutely.
something that you're supposed to be like, oh my God, I have this and I don't want to share. No, I think it's really an awareness tool. It
Right.
gets you to identify strengths. It
things that you can heal on, things of that nature. And so that's what it is for me. My emphasis is the ACEs score, because people are making these false assumptions. People don't want to talk about ACEs already.
Right. Right.
And then we're giving them this quiz, and then it's like, oh, well, take the quiz, have a great day. And nobody's really explaining it. It was 50 questions compiled into one.
Right. Right.
Even when I was developing the quiz for the set of students that I did the research for me to become
Right.
Dr. Williams, I was like, the questions and the score is like 3 questions into one. So I kind of was like how you were, like, well, 5 years and older, does that make a difference? That
Right.
type of
Right.
thing. And so
And I
that's what I want people to know, that the score doesn't define you at all. It's seriously an awareness tool. So
absolutely.
tell me more. Can we delve into your 8?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I've never really been afraid to talk about these things. I've always shared because I feel like when we're vulnerable and we share our stories, that's how we make connections. And I
Correct.
believe that that's how we heal,
Yep.
because you don't want to share until you know somebody else has gone through it sometimes. Or like, I know that I've been a speaker in various events. And when I share part of my story, people come up to me afterwards and say, oh, well, my mom was also an alcoholic. I was also divorced. I also tried to get help for a family member that had addiction and all of these types of things. So but I do always have to like take a breath, because I sometimes feel like I still feel that level of like a little bit of disloyalty to my parents when I
Mm-hmm.
tell the story. So
And
um
for me, I think that's the reason why I'm excited about the book,
mhm,
because honestly, I feel like in order to share my story, I kind of need to share theirs. And,
absolutely.
they don't want to talk about it. So it's like, anytime I talk to my parents about it, it's like my dad is like, you always bring this up. And, he's a yeller, and that yelling, is triggering. And it's like, okay, I'll leave it alone. But then again, in order for me to do what I need to do, we kind of
Yes.
have to.
Yes.
So I'm telling you, you're my soul sister. I'm telling you, I totally understand. And
I
I know
feel
that there's so many of us out there that feel the same way, which is the reason why we have the podcast. Because somebody's
absolutely.
going to say, Addy, your story is like mine, because your story is already like mine.
Yes, for sure. For sure. So a bit about my background.
Mhm.
Um, I am Latina. I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My real name is Adelina, but nobody can say it, so I go by Addy. That started from when I was young. I'm the third child and only girl to parents who married at the mature age of 14 and 17. And I think before I go into my origin story, my family of origin, I, like you, want to share a bit about my parents, because I think when I explain their backgrounds, you can see how that created this fertile ground and this inevitable path to my ACEs.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to start with my maternal grandmother, and I'll be brief. But my
Right.
maternal grandmother, her mom acquired diabetes when she was 8. So she had to quit school when she was 8 years old. She went to the second grade. And then she had to, wash and clean and iron for her father, take care of her siblings, and cook. I mean, she became the matriarch essentially of the family. And so I know that there's a stool, and I don't know who has it, but it used to be in her house. And her dad had made it for her so she could roll the tortillas and make food, for the family. And I always remember when I would go to my grandma's house, I thought, that's incredible.
Mhm.
So she eventually she married my grandfather, who was a very talented musician. He was a saxophone player.
Mm.
And he I'm not really sure about his background. I do know that he had a very strong mother.
Mhm.
And so he married my grandmother. They had 6 girls, and 1 boy. And I think because of the music, and him being in a band and whatever, there were frequent, according to my mom, there were frequent parties at the house on the weekends with lots of dancing and lots of drinking. And my mom and my aunt, a couple of my aunts have shared with me that was a lot of sexual abuse by male extended family members.
Mm.
And so my dad, he was the 12th of 14 children, and he was raised in a very patriarchal home, a patriarchal father. And my grandmother was, what I remember of her, she was very, very sweet. Corporal punishment was the norm, and you just, you didn't speak unless spoken to. And this led to, I don't know how many of the 14, but several of them became alcoholics. And and I think for the males to lead towards patriarchal tendencies. So my mom and dad met when my mom was 14, my dad was 17. And I think 2 months after they met, something like that, she became pregnant.
Mhm.
She had to quit school in 8th grade, and they had to get married. They were Catholic. They talked to their parents and they said, you will get married. So they did get married. My dad joined the Navy, went off to Hawaii. My mom stayed with her family, and my dad didn't meet my brother until he was 18 months old. And then she went out to Hawaii to be with him. My mom had another boy 5 years later, and then me 5 years later. So by the time she was 24, she had a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a newborn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Like
So,
stairs, like deep stair steps.
yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. So we'll talk about my background and my family of origin a little bit, or my story. So my earliest memory is that my mom was an alcoholic. I don't really remember her any other way. She definitely had her moments and her times when she wasn't drinking. She was kind of a awesome in the day. 5 o'clock rolled around, the martinis, vodka tonic started, and by 7, she was a very different person, very, very different. So it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I learned about all of these things. And so I think up until then, I was hurt, I was angry, I didn't understand how could you drink until you pass out? Like when I was growing up, when I was a little girl, it was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And um, I couldn't understand why she would become abusive with me. I don't recall her being abusive to my brothers, but I do recall her being abusive with me. But I was also probably much more sassy. No, I was much more sassy than
Right.
they ever were. And then it was hard for me to understand because she was so drunk that I was put in compromising situations and became victimized uh,
Wow.
as a child. So I could never understand it. I was angry, I was sad, I was fearful, all of those things.
Mhm.
So I think the hard part with my mom was that she, it's like I said, during the day, she was amazing. My mom gave great advice. My mom was intelligent. She was always encouraging me. She was amazing. And so when you have that like dual, kind of dualistic parent, you just don't understand. You don't know what you're going to get. And I think that creates a really difficult situation. My dad would drink with her. He would, go along, go with the flow. His whole mantra was, you know, don't rock the boat,
Mm.
just go with the flow. He was always telling me, stop talking about this. I would try to talk to my mom, I would try to talk to him. I would call hospitals. I was like 8 years old the first time I called a hospital asking, how can we get help for my mom? And I remember my dad walking over and hanging up the phone, and he was like, you don't talk to anybody about this.
Wow.
So, finding her hiding, you know, her hiding spots for bottles. I mean, all of these kinds of things. It was a lot, and having my dad say, just roll with the punches, and tough it up and, can't tell anybody and don't make such a big deal out of everything. I was like, it's not a big deal. It's, I'm trying to help the family. So, I tried to be as cooperative as a child to not rock the boat. And I was a good student and, won the spelling bees and, all of those things. I was a good student. And then around the age of 12, things changed. And I think the rebelliousness and, the, I was still afraid of her, very much afraid, but I just started like doing things behind their back and, I'm sleeping over here, but I was really somewhere else. And I'm at the movies, but I'm not really at the movies and all of those things. So, I think
Attention seeking.
Yes. I was having like stomach problems and yeah, I missed a lot of school. I missed a lot of school. So yeah, but I did have two teachers, my second grade teacher, Mrs. Bustamante, and my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Lucero. I have to bring that up because I know you're an educator. And to this day, I just spoke to one of them the other day and they inspired me. And I think they took care of me in a way that they didn't even recognize what I was going through at the time, but they were very loving and strict, but loving. And so I said, I want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
So I had always thought, I want to be a teacher and then a special education teacher because my teachers would have me, I would be the one to help the student that was struggling.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I want to be a special education teacher. And then I met somebody who was deaf. So I wanted to be a deaf educator.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned about speech language pathology. And then that's when I decided to go into that field. And, like I say these things about my mom, she was very encouraging. She wanted me to go to college so bad. And she was like, she would tell me, she would say, I don't want you to live a life where you have to depend on a man.
Mm.
And so, she felt trapped and, she was trying to escape her memories and all of her pain. So I get it. So I was the first female on my mom's side of the family to pursue higher education. So yes, she was very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of all about my childhood.
I love it because it's a familiar story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why we need to have this conversation because different households, different dynamics, but the same message. They didn't want us to share this with anybody. They had the parties. I had so many family members that would come and live with us. I was like, goodness, I could never have a room, you know what I mean? Or I had to share with someone else because of this.
Yeah.
So trust me when I say, Addy, I get it. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What sparked to make you want to learn? I know that you talked about at 8, you were making calls, which I find extremely interesting because it's a great example of adverse childhood experiences. You remember that. And
Oh, yes.
it's a great example. You know that it's not okay, but you want to do something about it. And then dad is like, well, nope, we can't. That's another.
It was my dad and my two brothers. I think they were just like, don't make mom upset. And it was like, in my mind, I was like, she's gonna be upset anyway. So
Right.
let's figure this out. I think I guess I would say that I was an empath and I am an empath.
Me too.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of it is nature and how much of it was nurture. So I think my empathic qualities did develop with the environment that I was growing up in. I wanted to make sure everybody was happy. I wanted to make sure everything was going well. I had to be good because if I was good, then my mom wouldn't drink. Maybe my mom wouldn't drink and, trying to keep the peace and all of those types of things. But I always, I knew that I always wanted to help those who were disenfranchised, let's say. So like I had said, teachers had often signed me up to be the person that supported any of the children that had disabilities or were English language learners. in my school. So I I yeah, I just knew that I wanted to help people and I wanted to do something with my life. And then I think watching my parents and having my mom in my ear saying you don't want to have to depend on anybody, and then watching that and um, seeing that in extended family members and neighbors and different situations, I just knew that that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to go into education or some sort of helping profession, which I think those of us that have ACEs up in helping professions. But I just always knew that I wanted to help somebody.
And you're doing that right now. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I do believe that you're shifted to this profession because of ACEs, like you said.
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, I loved my career as a speech language pathologist. Well, I still am a speech language pathologist for 21 years now.
Yeah.
And what happened was when I was working with the schools, I loved volunteering to be on teams or volunteering to be, to have different leadership positions. But what I found was what I didn't tell you, I was previously married and I worked in Turkey and in Germany
Oh, right.
and also in Hawaii because my former husband was in the army. And
Okay.
so I worked at different places, different countries, different places, different settings, different schools. And I was finding the same thing happening at each school. I would go to these meetings and the parents, because I was an empath, I was watching these parents not ask questions, feel disempowered, walk away upset, and not understand what was going on. So I always tried to do my best to support, of course, teachers and school staff, but I also tried to be as kind and compassionate towards parents as I could be. So after some time, I don't know how long ago, 8 years ago, or I don't even remember, about 8 years ago, I decided to go back to school to get my EDS because I thought if I get my admin and supervision license, then I could have even more influential positions where I can hopefully come to better outcomes during IEP meetings or eligibility meetings or whatever. I just always felt like I needed to do something more. I've always felt like I need to do something more. I need to do something more, and especially to help teams and help parents. And just I wanted to make sure that the best decisions were being made at the table. So I did work for a couple of years as a special education. Well, first year as an instructional specialist and special education coordinator, where I was able to sit at the eligibility table and facilitate and mediate conversations. And during that time, I did have administrators, teachers, and parents come to me and say, I didn't even know that that's what that meant.
Yep.
I didn't understand this, or I didn't understand that, or I would have parents kind of linger afterwards and say to me, thank you so much, because I felt like I was actually heard today in a way that I'd never been heard.
Yep.
So I was really excited about that. And I love my job, but it was stressful.
Yes.
It was really stressful. And it took a lot out of me, and it started to have some physical implications. And so, yeah. And so, briefly, a little over a year ago, I had developed some cancer on my face. And I was really looking forward to having this surgery because I said, oh, good, I'm going to be out of work for 2 whole weeks and I can answer emails, develop training, do all these things that I don't have time to do. And around the same time, I found out I was going to be a first-time grandma. And so I was really excited about that, but I was sad because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to spend very much time with little grandbaby when she was born, because I was a 12-month employee, and at this level, you just don't have a lot of time to take off.
No.
And so while I was recovering, I didn't realize I was going to have to wear this big patch on my face. So I couldn't wear my glasses. If I couldn't wear my glasses, I couldn't hold my computer and I couldn't work. And my daughter called me from New York and she said, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm so upset. I can't work. And she was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. You know, you're having physical problems. You now have this problem. Work is stressful. You can't go be with the baby when the baby's born. Mom, you need to do something different. And my son said, they did an intervention on me on FaceTime. And my son said, Mom, you've been a public servant for 29 years. You were a Cub Scout. You were my Cub Scout leader. You were my Boy Scout leader. My daughter said you were a Daisy leader. You were a Brownie leader. You were a junior leader. You volunteered at church. You led women's retreats. You did the whole youth program for middle school. Like, you've been serving and serving and serving. And so, I don't know. I was just laying there one day, and I had already taken a coaching course. I said to my husband, I did remarry, and I didn't do this sequentially very well, but anyway, I did remarry and had two more, and I didn't have two more children, but gained two more great children.
Yes.
So we have 5 in our blended family. But I approached my husband and I said, I'm thinking about doing something really different. What are your thoughts? And he said, if you're going to be happy, if you're going to be more healthy, if this is something that you want to do, then we will figure this out. So that's when I decided I was going to resign in June and become a life coach and educational consultant.
And how do you feel?
Well, I feel fantastic now.
Good for you.
I do feel fantastic now. Let me tell you how the aces crept up in a very strange way.
Tell me.
So I resigned, thought I was like the happiest person ever. We were going to go meet my first grandchild. We were there for a couple of days, and I got a muscle spasm in my back, which would happen when I was very stressed out. I couldn't understand it. Why would this be happening now? I went for a massage. After the massage, we went to eat, and I was sitting there with my husband, and I said, Charlie, I'm not sure what's happening right now, but I think I'm having a stroke or a heart attack. And he just looked at me and he's like, okay. And he comes around to the side of the table. I felt this like rising feeling. I couldn't describe it. I'd never had it before. I had been having some dizzy issues previously. And long story short is, I had every test in the book, CAT scan, MRIs, EEGs, everything, blood work. I had already been diagnosed with some migraine headaches, but really, I think what it was, which I was in huge denial, it was anxiety. I got to the point where after we did our trip out to the Southwest, we came back, and I would get in my car and I would get not even a mile down the road, and I couldn't breathe, and it's happening again. Oh my gosh, what's going on? And it was so strange, because what I couldn't understand was, if I grew up in that environment,
Right.
I had been previously married and gone through a lot in the marriage, then a lot separating, divorcing, remarriage, all of these things. I had endured so many things. How could I now have anxiety? This doesn't make sense. I know there's something much greater wrong with me. And so working with my life coach and my physicians, I just came to discover that I had so much repressed trauma, so much unprocessed trauma in my body, that when I quit work, it was the first time that I was not like on the go. I got to go here. I got to go there. I got this meeting. I got that meeting. Like my entire life has always been on the go, like no rest, no recoupment. And so what we determined was that my body was just like, hold on.
Sit down, Addy.
You're going to process this trauma. So for the past year, I've been engaging in a lot of somatic exercises, doing some journaling, which I always kind of was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But just really allowing my body to feel my feelings. I've never really felt my feelings. I just kind of go, well, this is how it is. You roll with the punches. That's what you do. And, be grateful for what you have and all those things that had been in my brain and just all of the trauma that I really never processed. Even though I had years off and on of talk therapy, it's not the same. It's not the same. My life coach, she was amazing. I mean, she just really talks about mind, body, and spirit and just overall wellness and things that I can do and to increase my mindfulness and all of these things. So yeah. So I went through all of that and now I really feel amazing because I feel like I've processed a lot.
And you've done this on your own.
For the most part, yes.
With support, of course, from your family, from your life coach, from yourself, because you wanted to make these changes for you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I
Because
had to.
you have to understand the power that you have over yourself right now. Everybody else has had control over you all this time. And now, with the support system that you have, hate to say it like this, but the third time was the charm. And
Yes.
look at you.
Yes. Thank you.
OMG, Addy, like, listen to your
Oh,
story.
and it doesn't mean that difficult things don't still happen.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a child that experiences some that struggles and still have problems and issues and people misunderstandings and different types of things. But I just really am like so respectful of people and their journeys.
Of
I
course.
understand their ACEs. I mean, if I didn't understand them, so that's the part that I love about ACEs and becoming aware is because number one, I'm such a better life coach, but I'm also just better in relationships in general because when someone is upset about something, I can understand them so much better. I know that it's a threat response. Their status is being questioned, their certainty, their fairness, the scarf model. And I've always used that, but understanding ACEs has helped me even more.
And now you guys know why I call this my soul sister. So what? We are a part of Black Indigenous people of color. We are going through the same struggle, the same situation. We're understanding ACEs. And this is what I call, because some people always say, oh, okay, well, there's the ACEs score. So what do you mean? What's the next steps? You have to take the next steps.
Yes.
I love how you gave examples. Talk therapy is great, but it's not the answer to everything.
Yes.
And then you talk about the things that you did to help you. I love that you admitted that, yes, some trauma has been passed down because I share that all the time. I love my daughters to death, but I also keep them open and informed. So one of the things that I just recently did, as you know, because thank you again for supporting me through that situation with me understanding blackouts and seizures. I had to let my daughters know that their ACEs score went up 1 because under household dysfunction, it says if you're living with a mother with an illness, that's ACEs. And unfortunately, I didn't know. My 11-year-old was the one that told me, well, you have actually been having the blackouts and seizures for a while. I just didn't know what it was. I can't expect her to. She's 11.
Right.
And then my my other daughters, I have 2 teens. So I have a stair step too. I have 17, 15, and then 11. So she'll be, an only child for a minute. She's excited about it. Just imagine them not knowing,
Right.
like, what's going on. So, of course, we went to therapy. Talk therapy was what we did because it was needed at the time. I wanted them to express their feelings and emotions. And I'm just glad that they were able to use the words that were needed. How do you feel? Amazing. And I'm like,
Yes.
proud, but like,
Yeah.
oh, I hate to
Well,
think
and
about
I think, and I definitely, I do want to emphasize, like, talk therapy has helped me in my life at different times, but I think the coaching part and what really why I wanted to get into it is because of, well, just so much that it did for me, but it's all about those limiting beliefs. And I
Yep.
love that you brought up that we are BIPOC sisters,
Mhm,
and we have different experiences
mhm.
than the average person. And I think it's the cultural, for me, it was some cultural beliefs, limiting beliefs, societal limiting beliefs, religious impacts, limiting beliefs that all impacted me as well. That it's a different experience for me than it would be for someone else.
Yep.
That's white, I believe.
Agree.
And so, yeah, I mean, working with families, especially the families that, well, I work with, so I have to clarify, I need to clean up my website a little bit because I've had people call me and say, well, or I meet them, they said, well, I looked at your website, but it says you only work with families or individuals, parents and families of children with disabilities. And I said, no, I work with any individual, couple
Right.
or family to work through any challenge. I like to work through communication challenges, relationship challenges, but mostly to help people to let go of their disempowerment and speak from a more empowered voice in their relationships. And so, but I specialize in working with families of that have a child or an adult with a disability because that's my background.
Mhm.
I do that through the life coaching, and then I also offer consulting services to parents to help them with understanding their IEPs. And now, more recently, which I said I was not going to do, I do attend meetings in person and virtual to support them because I learned that just like in teaching children, our theory or our strategies, I do, we do, you do.
Exactly.
I learned that just by giving parents more information and helping them know what to ask, well, they got to the table and they would ask, but they didn't know if they got the right answer or not.
Yeah.
So they were coming back and they said, I walked in there feeling really empowered, but I really don't know if this is right or if that is correct or, appropriate or whatever. And like I keep telling them, I'm trying to build bridges.
Right.
I don't think educators always understand the conversation I'm having behind the scenes in kind of calming them down, giving them information, helping them understand,
Right.
uh, but also empowering them to know what their rights are, what their
Mhm.
child's rights are.
Mhm.
So
I
I
think that's what I love being in education because that's our right, but it's empowerment for us too.
absolutely. I just put something out on my Facebook today. This past weekend I did a training session for Black parents of children with Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And it was just to watch them as I talked about limiting beliefs and having them understand why they get to the table and they feel like, well, the educators know more than me, they know better than me, but yet they're resentful and unhappy about what's being said. And they're like, but that's not my whole child. So
Mhm.
to help them understand some of these, I didn't use the expression of ACEs, but talked about, traumatic experiences and things that you go through as a
Mhm.
child that impact your ability to speak from an empowered voice when you're trying to advocate for your child. So, on
Very
the flip
powerful.
side, I also consult with school divisions to do training and professional development and any
Mhm.
instructional coaching, because I really believe that the more everybody knows about special education, the
Mhm.
better we're going to be able to serve these children and they are going to have better outcomes.
Yep.
So, yeah.
There's a bad label to me on special education. I tell everybody to me to be certified as a special education administrator is a lot. I'm afraid to let it go. This is year 2 for me doing this as an edupreneur. I'm
Mhm.
afraid to let go of my licensure because it's so powerful.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really
Well, you don't have to let it go. And you just have to keep up with your continuing education.
And I'm gonna have no other choice. You know what I mean? Because these conferences that we go to are offering that. So that's the great thing. It's the empowerment though.
We're gonna have to
You
share
might
that
not
with
be-
me.
Yeah, no, we have like I just did a conference here and they had was giving away the continuing education credit. And so now that I think about it, hey, I think need to reach out to them so I can
Yeah, reach out to me.
apply.
I'll come out there. Actually, I'm going
Yeah.
to be out there for my niece's birthday, which is on my niece's wedding, which is on my birthday. I'm going to be in Denton, Texas.
I'm going to meet you. This is going to be so
Plan for it.
cool. I
Yes.
think this is what needs to happen. And this is the reason why the community that you have seen is so powerful to me, because you have people that understand ACEs. We're out here talking about it. We're advocating for it. We're connecting, we're networking, we're doing these type of things. We're mentioning names in rooms, because I would love for people to meet you. I think you're amazing. And people already do know your name because I speak so highly of you. We're a rarity. Everybody isn't special education informed. And if they know at least about resiliency or the social emotional learning aspect of it, or understand that emotional disability, ED, is ACEs, we could help out so much. And I think that's been the combative thing for me in meetings, because I do the same. And I'll admit it was a situation where I had to reach out to the parent because the school was trying to put the kid at an alternative school and he was only in the kindergarten. Well, he hasn't had a chance to really even be exposed to kids because of what has happened at home.
Right.
And so I had to step up and tell mom, like, I'm not trying to be in your business, but this is what happened. This is what the school is recommending. They want special education so they could take the steps to get your kid out of school. And granted, I know that I was wrong because I'm working for this school district, but then again, I didn't want to see that young man go into a situation and set him up for that.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
We need to follow that continuum of services.
we do, and people don't understand that.
So, yes. As well, and especially at 5. It's like, okay, the questions that we're always asking at the table is where is the data?
Exactly.
What does the data show? And is there data? Just, he's off the chain isn't data.
Yeah, that's not it. And what I love is we accepted him into special education. We provided him with services and things changed. But that's because you have somebody at the table that knows exactly what he's going through, what he's experienced, all of these other things. And that is what's going to help you, because we're going to continue to do this. Parents are going to continue to call us. We're empaths. We're always going to be in meetings. They're always going to want that assistance and support. But I truly believe that understanding of ACEs helps us and makes us stand out a lot more than others because of that.
I agree. I definitely agree. Something I don't want to fail to mention, I don't even know how long we've been talking, but I failed to mention something else I think we really need to start considering. And I've always thought about this, but now that I'm working with clients that do have children with disabilities, we're missing a very important group of people, and that's the siblings of these children. So, yes. So you have these parents who already are, I was gonna say experiencing ACEs. That's sounds like a double negative. They have ACEs. They've experienced ACEs. And then, then they bring all that trauma with them, then they get married. That's hard enough as it is when you are still operating from toxic stress. The smallest thing can agitate you, and you respond in the way that you saw your parents respond, and all of those things. So they've got that. Then they have children, and then when one of the children has a disability, just everything that they go through, the shame, the guilt, the anger, that the whole cycle.
Yep.
the whole grief cycle, and they process through that continuously with each event. It's like when they're born, when they're 2 and the other kids are walking and their child isn't walking, and when they're talking and my child isn't talking, and all of these things. They're focused. And I'm not, this is no blame or shade,
Mhm.
but they're often hyper focused on that child, ensuring that they're getting what they need. And what
Right.
I'm learning a lot through working with my clients is that there's incredible guilt about not being able to be there and meet the needs of the other children, and
Mhm.
the other children's resentment. And then when they get older and they start acting out, so there's just like, that's a whole other thing. And they're feeling like they have to take care of sometimes their parents and
Mhm.
the child with a disability, and trying to keep them happy, and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, that's like a whole other ACEs. That's a whole
But you
other.
know what? That's the thing. I'm happy to see that there were updates because again, when I was, interested in ACEs, it was from childhood. It didn't even exist. And
Right,
then to, learn about it and do everything, it's like, well, these are the things that they need. They need to be talking about these things. So when they popped up in 2023, it was an eye-opening experience because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not saying that I did this myself. What I'm saying is it's on here now, but they forgot important things like how you just said. I honestly think the siblings, I don't even want to say issues, their concerns, their
right,
support, their need has to be evaluated as well, especially when even you have a sibling that has experienced abuse and a sibling has not, that effect that it has on the person. We
right.
still need to consider that too. But things like adoption, things, I mean, there's so many things that still need to be addressed. So
Yes,
let's
yes.
shine a light on it all.
I don't remember who your guest was, but she was talking about being adopted with her twin sister,
That was
her
Julie.
experience. Yes, and her experience. And I was like, oh, that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There's so many. I'm
seen.
just happy that it's more of us. You know what I mean? Like we're out here. We just need to understand. And then
Yes,
for the ones that understand, here it is, Addy, you understand.
I
You
get
know,
it.
you're sharing with your clients, your family, your proof that you can go through these experiences, but you can come out strong.
Yeah,
I love how you started talking about your family because I will share, like I shared during our lunch and learn today. My first chapter is talking about generational trauma, period,
yeah,
because we don't even know about that at all.
right, right. Have you read Breaking the Cycle by Dr. Marielle Bouquet?
Of course. I actually had a study session about it. I actually have been talking to her in
Okay.
regards to this. Like we connected on LinkedIn because I put it up there. She was like, "Oh my God, you have a study session?" I'm like, "Yes." I thought her book was great. So I advocate, and I actually use her book, Breaking a Cycle, for the parent the workbook for the parents and the workbook for the students. Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Did I
Absolutely.
call it the wrong title? What did I just call it?
Breaking the cycle.
Did I? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
So I had the fortunate opportunity just to meet her briefly, but she was our keynote speaker, which I need to talk to you about because we only have a month, I think, to get the discounted price. We have a retreat weekend, our conference weekend. It's called the XL Summit. It's for BIPOC
okay.
women. And she was the keynote speaker last
Yes.
year. And so she said she was going to come back. I don't know that she's speaking. I don't know anything about what's happening. I just know that it's a phenomenal experience. So we will have to connect so I can tell you about that.
Yes.
Yes.
That
Yes.
would be great. I love her. She's very authentic. Uh,
Yeah.
so I try my best to follow those that I know are passionate just as much as we are about breaking the cycle. And I love that she talks about ACEs to the T. These are
Yeah.
the people that I am, people value. And not to say what I love about our podcast, it's very valuable. I have people tell me all the time, I think it was episode 20, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Tell me more. What do you
Yeah.
think? It'll be episode 20. I
Yeah.
think That's the whole purpose of it. It's an educational tool that people can use to help understand their own, but it's what you do about it that will help. So I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
What did you think about my ACEs quiz?
What did I think about it?
Because it's different than the ones
It
that are
is
out
different.
there.
Well, I was looking at the results again today or yesterday, and I like the way that it is broken down into the different sections. That part and that has the bullet statements, because it
Oh,
helped me to kind of understand to understand myself and my experience a little bit more.
yeah.
I did appreciate where, it said, are you Latina, Hispanic, it gave me like, it was personalized for me, which I
Yeah.
really love that for
Yes.
me.
Yes.
But no, I thought it was easy to understand. And then when it gave me the feedback, when I read it, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get
Mhm.
it. And I think initially I felt a little, like I said, a little vulnerable, it
Mhm.
brought up some things for me, but I appreciate the experience, and I
Yeah.
appreciate the way it was revised, because I feel like I'm in a better place
With it, which
with
is
it.
the reason why I did it that way, and even included what the CDC now calls other adversities, so people can come aware.
Yes.
I actually wanted to do more with the other adversities, but since the CDC hasn't broken those down into terms, I kind of
Yes.
want to follow their lead. They initially were the ones that gave me permission to revise the 10 question ACEs quiz. So of course, I kind of want to stick with what they have with them giving me the permission. But
Right.
I will say that people are using it as an intake tool. I used it for a conference. Um, One of our therapists, I think he was 44 or 45, Andre Charlie, had a manifest conference in Detroit, and he gave it out as a registration tool. I
Okay.
helped sponsor one of my mentees, and it was great. The feedback
That's
just came
amazing.
from him. He was like, can I have, permission to use it? So I will let you know you can use this as a tool for
Okay,
your
that's great.
bill.
That is great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because again, that's my goal. As you see, I'm heavy into the research. I love it.
Yeah.
That's the psychology aspect. I'm not a clinical therapist at all. I am a researcher. I will break it down to where people understand. And I think that's what people need to help that starter
Yes, I
understand
agree.
of ACEs.
And I will say 100% of my clients have had ACEs. 100%
100%.
of some sort, 100%.
I
So,
believe.
yeah, I think I was a little surprised initially, but now I'm okay. I'm like, okay, I'm just really understanding that it's just different experiences, but we're all
Mhm,
having the same experience. It's just different. The nuances are just a little bit different. And
mhm.
I just love the way that you're organizing and mobilizing. And
Thank
I love
you.
that. Yeah,
Will
I
you
definitely
join
want to do.
us?
Yes.
I mean, I know you have, but
Y-
still,
Yeah.
the more people, like you're so many people, I cannot wait for us to get this wonderful feedback, or other people to say, oh, I can relate, or this is understand. You know what I mean? Because that's what's needed. You already know that you're not alone in your journey. I'm here. We connected from day one, I guess I can say, because once we connected, that was it. And I love that, because again, for me, even starting this journey, I felt like I was alone. I'm like, why is nobody's talking about this? Are you
Right.
serious? And to hear that people are having this conversation, I would love for you to continue having the conversation. I would
I,
love to continue supporting. I will support you in every way that I can to help you get this point that ACEs is real and ACEs education is key.
yes, I appreciate that.
My sister. Well, do you have, before we leave, of
Yes.
course, I want you to share your valuable information to everyone. Anything we missed, anything you want to share, any last minute points, procedures, anyone with an ACEs score, anybody that is scared to share their story, anything that you want to share with our listeners, they may hear from right now.
Oh, I just encourage everyone to just take some time for some deep reflection and dig deep to where you have that vulnerable heart, and know that your inner child, the inner you who is in pain wants to come out.
Mm-hmm.
She or he wants to come out, because we were born for great things. We were born for more than feeling less than, or, just feeling like we're not capable or we shouldn't, or, all of those things, all of those limiting beliefs that keep us here. We are so much more. And when we are more, we can do more
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. And I do believe, I just do believe it's our responsibility to heal ourselves so we can heal the collective.
Yep.
And, as we heal, and when we heal, then we can have more genuine and authentic conversations. When you're mad at somebody, instead of not talking to them anymore and talking about them and all of those things, you can say, you know what, when you said that to me, it really ticked me off.
Right.
That hurt me when you said that. I felt this way. And the other person can say, wow, that wasn't my intention. And then we model that.
Yep.
We model it for the littles.
Because we can change. We can
do so much. Oh,
we can do
I feel like I'm preaching now, but yeah.
No, I know that we can, because you're already saving the next generation. I tell people about my ACEs ambassadors. That's their generation. I'm going to make sure that they're taken care of, because I'm going to provide them with every tool and resource they need to go ahead and spread this information to the next generation. Our generation is the ones that didn't have a name for it. And I don't know if the reason why people don't want to talk about it is because of the name. I could care less. I just want to bring awareness to something that we really need to know about.
Yes. And I just want to say that, whatever pathway you choose to take to heal, we're all here for you. If anyone would like to explore the option of coaching and working with me, I would love to have a discovery call with anybody. I offer a 60-minute free discovery session where we can talk about whatever it is that you maybe took from this experience of listening and watching, or, it brought up something for you. You're having difficulty with communicating in relationships or at work, or whatever. You don't have to have a child with a disability to work with me, but if you do, I welcome all of those parents, because, I really want to help them to be able to speak with an empowered voice in their families. I want to help them heal from a lot of the guilt and shame and anger and all of that comes with their situation. And also help them with their IEPs, because I do think, well, not just IEPs, but whether it's a manifestation determination review, maybe their child is in trouble, whatever. I just want to make sure that they are empowered when they go into the meeting. And if they need my support to go with them, I will go with them. And then also any school divisions that are looking for special education, instructional coaching, or professional development, I'm available to do that in person, virtually. And then any corporation or provider that would like disability awareness or inclusivity training for their organization, whether it's virtual or in person, I want to do that as well. My goal is to create empowered and inclusive settings for everyone.
Tell us where people can find you.
So the best way is on my website. It's addymanriquez.com, ADDYMANRIQUEZ.com. And if you fill out a contact form, that'll come into my, I'll receive an email and I'll reach back out to you. And then they can also send an email at connect@addymanriquez.com. My Instagram handle is AddyManriquez_CC.
Addy, it's been a pleasure. I
Oh,
thank
this
you
is
so much.
great.
No,
Thank
I
you
thank
so
you for
much.
just being a part of the community. I thank you for sharing your story. I actually love this episode because you break it down to the T. This was perfect. I love that that safe space was created for you to share your story. So again, thank you so much. You all will see us together. You all will see us collaborating. You all will see us doing a lot of wonderful work together.
I'm
So
looking
again,
forward to it.
thank you so much again, Addy, for coming to the show. You guys, another episode of Be Victorious again. I love you guys. You guys are so amazing. We thank you again. Make sure you tune in. I'm everywhere on social media, everywhere. Dr. Victorious, Be Victorious. Be Victorious Foundation. I am Dr. Victorious on Instagram, Dr. Victorious on Facebook. My name is Torie McDonald Williams on LinkedIn. I've been doing a lot of wonderful things on LinkedIn here recently. So you guys can find me. I just ask that you guys to choose ACES education and be victorious in your endeavors. Thank you again for another episode of Be Victorious. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye, you guys.